The PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back since last week, Gary Lande. Gary is a professional career coach who focuses on helping individuals develop their written job search materials and guides them through the transition process from job application to job offer. He is a member of the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. His mission is helping open interview doors for his clients. He does this by working with them to perfect their resumes, optimize their LinkedIn profiles, and write compelling cover letters and winning thank you letters. Gary is a member of our own professional service group of Mercer County Executive Committee. He is the chair of our training committee that develops programs supporting individuals in job search. He has conducted numerous presentations for this group as well as other networking venues in the central New Jersey area. Prior to supporting clients in search of career opportunities, he was a supply chain management executive in Fortune 100 pharmaceutical and consumer product companies, including Bristol Myers Squibb and J&J. Gary enjoyed a long, successful corporate career and has substantial personal experience in job search, which he shares, having been in career transition himself several times. So PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back our very own Gary Lande. Making his way.
The round of applause is very much appreciated. Thank you. From those of you who are here.
We'll record it to play video.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. For openers, I would like to share some thoughts with you that I had driving over this morning. So I am a proud grandfather who has a granddaughter who's very, very skilled in drama and has had major roles and major performances. And her birthday is coming up, and I asked her what she wanted to do, and she said, I'd like to see a play. So I gave her a list on a website of things to choose, and she chose My Fair Lady. So we're going to be seeing that. I was telling my son about this just to make sure that Dad knew what Grandpa and granddaughter are going to be doing. And I said, that, yeah, it's on Sunday, January the 30th. And he quickly checked the calendar and he said, no, Dad, it's January the 29th. Okay. This is one example of the kind of thing that happens in conversation. And when we talk to somebody and we make a mistake, it's easier quickly to verbally correct it and move on. No mas. I was remembering in an interview several years ago, I was trying to explain something complicated to an HR person about something that I had accomplished in inventory management, which was using sophisticated statistical analytical techniques to manage inventory levels. And this person wasn't getting it. So I said, all right, hey, let's try this another way. Let's think about this in a different way. Maybe it'd be easier for me to explain it and for you to understand it. So the point is, you do these things in conversation, and it's fine, okay? You can always walk something back or review something or talk about something in a different way. Now we enter the world of written documentations that you use for job search. Resumes, LinkedIn profiles, cover letters, thank you letters. When somebody's reading something, that's what you said. And you don't have an opportunity to re-explain it or walk it back. And that's the reason why this process of building these documents, writing these documents, you have to do very, very diligently. So my mission in working with people is helping people do just that. Make a very, very high quality, diligently prepared document. Okay? Are you new to job search? A lot of you may very well be. Some of you may be very, very experienced at. Is your resume current or is it outdated? Some of the people that I'm helping now have not written resumes in 10, 12, or 15 years. And the way it was done in those days is not necessarily the way it was done today. So one of the things you certainly want to have is a resume that is what I call contemporary. You may feel more than challenged in doing this. You may actually feel overwhelmed. The purpose of this program is to help you do this as much as you can and as good as you can do it yourself. And that's what I aim to do today. That's what this program is all about. Here are some typical resume questions. How many pages should a resume be? I'm not advancing here on my screen. Okay, we're fine now. How many years should I go back when I write a resume? Won't the dates show my age? Yes, it's not advancing. Hold on just a second. Okay, thank you. Won't dates show my age? Everybody's very conscious about being too senior and not being considered for opportunities because you put a date on there that you graduated from college, or you have other information on there that shows the reader immediately how old you are. How do I handle my employment gaps? Not everybody has a continuum of employment. You're looking at a guy who was downsized during his career 3 different times. And one of my gaps was the year 2009 when the country was in a terrible recession and I was out of work for a year. Right? How do you handle that? What about a functional resume? Excuse me. The functional resume rather than a chronological resume. In today's world, the functional resume is very rare. Once in my career, I was asked to prepare a functional resume. I have multiple functional backgrounds, and this was for work with a consulting firm for a purchasing assignment. And what they said is, we don't need your resume. We just want you to send us a functional resume showing your duties and responsibilities in purchasing only. So that was a functional resume. That's the only time I've ever done that. And probably 99 times out of 100, all of you will be preparing and submitting resumes that are chronological. So how many pages should a resume be? How far should I go back? Like we discussed, will the date show my age and employment gaps and so on and so forth? Will companies respect my transferable skills? Suppose I see a position and it's in a different industry, but I have the kind of skills that I should be able to do the job that I'm looking at, right? This is more challenging when you write a resume to do this. The easier thing is if you're looking for opportunities in companies and industries that follow all of your experience. However, if you do it well, you can qualify yourself through your transferable skills. And I'm not just saying that, I've actually done that. Through the end of my career, I moved out of pharmaceuticals and personal care consumer products into 3 other industries. So this can be done. And what about volunteer activity? My advice is I prefer if you have volunteer experience that somehow connects with your career. That's really good and that's really important to put on there. But whether or not you put things on there that are about volunteer activities that don't necessarily connect with your career, that's up to you. That's up to you, but I label that kind of as a second choice. So here's an outline of what I want to discuss today. I'm going to use this term, and it's the title of the presentation, Master Resume. And I'm going to tell you what the characteristics of a master resume are. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have worked with recruiters. And I put the word recruiters in quotes. I'm using the term very broadly. That could be an HR person, it could be somebody who's actually a professional recruiter, or it could even be the hiring manager. In essence, it's anybody that's reading your resume. They're recruiting, right? I'm absolutely going to talk about applicant tracking systems because ATSs, or as my colleague David likes to refer to them as applicant tracking systems, potentially problematic for those of you that are writing resumes. I'm definitely going to talk about those as guidelines on how to get you through an ATS so that your resume does not get rejected. Most resumes, as I mentioned, are going to be chronological. You pretty much want to stick to that. And I'm going to go over guidelines for submitting jobs for resumes. And I'm also going to provide you with some additional resources and some additional information to help you write your resume better. So what is a master resume? It covers the entire job history, including all your positions and your accomplishments. Now, kind of going back to the subject of how long should a master resume be? Well, I was in the workplace from college graduation for 49 years. So if you want to look at my master resume is more than 6 pages long, right? I kind of like this. I like having this. Never submitted the full 6.5 pages because some of the jobs were too old and not relevant to the positions that I was applying for. But what was good about having the master resume and reading back over my experience is early in my career, I had some very interesting challenges and some very, very interesting and important accomplishments. And by rereading this, when I was interviewing, I brought some of these things up. Or if I didn't have it written, what happened 30, 40 years ago, I might not have remembered that. So that's part of the information bank that you have in your head when you go in for an interview about what you've done, duties and responsibilities and accomplishments. So I kind of like having this as a general rule. Most people don't go back more than about 20 or 25 years on the resume. Okay, and that's going to determine how many pages you provide. But don't be worried about the number of pages that you provide. It can easily be 3 pages or 3.5 pages. So there's no limit really on the number of pages. It's what is relevant to the position that you are applying for. And of course, it provides information about the tell me about yourself question. And for those of you who've interviewed, you probably very, very often have gotten that question as the first question. Tell me about yourself. Well, how are you going to answer that question? Typical answer is chronological. You start with your first position and you talk about your duties and responsibilities, and you progress as a story from job to job to job, from the past to your most recent opportunity. There's the master resume, has all that information. You know your career. That's the easiest document that you have to help you for interview preparation. And most importantly, it is also your source document for customizing a resume. when you look at a job opportunity, the most important thing that you need to do is to look at your resume and compare it to the position that you are applying for to see how strongly you match all the duties and responsibilities in that job opportunity. So I'll talk a little bit further on about customizing your resume to make it a stronger match for the job that you're interested in. All right, so you cover your job history, no limit on the number of pages, and I made a little diagram down the bottom here just to make sure that I'm explaining this point fully. And that is, your master is your source document going back for each of the jobs that you're going to apply for. You always go back to that. As I mentioned, in a little while, I'll talk about customizing your resume. So you definitely want to be putting yourself in a position at the front of the pack, as we say. Applying for jobs in today's market or any other time is a competition, and you will obviously want to put your best foot forward. So this is obviously your most important foundation marketing tool, and that's the thing that's going to set you apart from the other people.
I think it's possible you're hitting this.
You're losing
When you're,
focus.
I'm only over.
no, I know, but with the side of your hand. And I
Okay,
think it's, so, yeah,
okay,
I think that might be it.
very good. Thank you for helping. Okay, so hopefully we got that straight. And within your resume, I think everybody knows there is a thing called value proposition. And I'll be showing you examples of value proposition. And of course, the purpose of all this is to get you an interview. Okay, characteristics of a good resume for the people who will be reading it. It has to be easily readable for the human eye. You certainly want to use very, very concise language. And by the way, this will be posted on our website for all of you to go back and review all the slides. In case you miss anything, please don't worry about that. You got to have well-written sentences, your best grammar, your best punctuation, etc. Spelling, grammar, it goes without saying. And make sure you write in the past tense. A lot of people miss this. They're writing about jobs that they were in 10 or 15 years ago, and they're writing it in the current job tense. Please do not do that. Only write in your current responsibility. And if you're no longer employed, that is past tense. That's important for the reader to know that. Watch out for subjective and trite expressions. I think everybody thinks they're a hard worker, certainly, and a team player, and everybody's ambitious. These are certainly qualities that everybody thinks of themselves, but this is trite language, and you do not put this in a resume. Okay, as I mentioned before, how many pages it is depends upon how many years you've worked. And the volunteer positions, better if career related. And I'm going to show you how you should write titles in organizations. If you are a CPA, you write Certified Public Accountant, and then you put in parentheses CPA. If you work for the FBI, you say Federal Bureau of Investigation, and then you put FBI in parentheses. That's the right way of doing this. Through the years ago, 10 point was considered a minimum size for writing a resume. Today, maybe at least in my case, because I'm older than I was 10 years ago, I prefer to read 11 point. And this will make your resume a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter. What it does to the human eye, it makes it more readable. So I prefer 11 point to 10 point very strongly. Make sure there's white space between jobs. And left side justified, for those that don't know what that is, it means that the left side of your resume is in all in one column. And your margin should be about an inch on the left side. You have a choice when you do this to set your computer up so that the right side is also justified. Make it the same width as the left side, and that's up to you. So if it's left and right side, it's called fully justified. If not, just left side. That's your choice. And all of these points that I'm bringing out are as before. This makes your resume very, very contemporary. And that's what you want to be. Keep in mind, recruiters, again, anybody that's reading your resume, usually have a lot of documents to go through. Make sure that your resume demonstrates your skills and experience and how this matches the employer's needs. Much as possible. That's targeting. Now on to applicant tracking systems. When you submit your resume online, for most companies, except for maybe the very, very smallest, it's going into an application. And that application is called an applicant tracking system. For larger companies, the ATS function is part of the overall human resources application. So what they've done is they've programmed with descriptions of the job, especially the keywords and phrases that define the things that they're looking for among applicants. Okay? And what the ATS does is it's reading your resume and it's scoring you how many times you match exactly what's in the job opportunity, word for word. This is only a computer, so it doesn't make any judgments. And for an example, you may have a lot of managerial experience, and what you say in your resume, you use the word manage or managerial. And in some cases, in a job opportunity, they're going to say they're looking for supervision. Now, we all know supervision and management are almost interchangeable terms. So when you see something like this, you want to make sure that your resume contains the word supervise at least a couple of times, once or twice, as well as just manage. Just because at this point, there's a computer looking at this and it's matching and it's scoring. Definitely use black text. I'm an advocate of black because the system finds it easiest to read this. But you can also take a little license on this and use some other colors if you want to make something that you feel is a little bit more interesting and presentable. But you wouldn't use any light color. You would only use very dark colors, like a dark blue, let's say. But mostly, almost all the resumes that I see and people that I work with, everything's in black. This is for the one that goes into the system. Okay, there are the numerous keywords and phrases throughout your resume that are in the job description. And you use traditional black bullets. I emphasize that. Some of these ATSs are set up specifically to look for these. And you might be tempted to use dashes, but please don't. Use black bullets. And upload your resume versus copying and pasting, it makes sure technically that you have more integrity in the document that you send in being exactly what you're putting into the system. So here are the list of do's and don'ts. Do not, in the resume that you are submitting online, do not use images, photos, graphics, logos, arrows, tables, borders, no portraits around, all the way around. Do not put lines across the page or asterisks in front of accomplishments. Again, you use the bullets. What's interesting about these lines is in some of the older applicant tracking systems, these things are distractors. And some of the old ones from a few years ago, they can look at a line and the system says, oh, end of document, end of document. So basically, if you do that, you're taking a risk that you're finished before you even started. So that is not to do, not to do. Also avoid underlining words for the same reason. And do not put information in headers and footers when you do your document, because ATSs don't read headers and footers. They read straight text. Guidelines continued. Now this is about type style. And again, there was a time when I was looking online to see how many different type of applicant tracking systems there are in the market. At one point I came across a survey rank ordering them like a consumer report, which ones came out the best, which ones people liked working. And at that point, there were over 100. So time passes, and these systems obviously have different versions and they're being upgraded. But the thing that I cannot tell you today is whether or not, if you use a serif type style, whether the ATS is going to have the ability to read it or it's going to have difficulty reading it. So what we do is, there's no reason to take the chance. You notice if you read the news, everything that you see online, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, CBS Market Watch, you see a lot of serif type styles. So you'd say to yourself, geez, that's all out there. Systems have to be able to read that. I don't advise you to do that. I advise you to stick to non-serif type so that you don't have a problem in case the system that you're putting your resume into is going to have a problem with. So you avoid serif type. Choose non-serif type styles. And here are 4 very, very commonly used and often used ones: Arial, Calibri, Tahoma, and Verdana. Any one of those, or there are literally dozens of others. And one of the things you might do if you want to zip up the appearance of your resume a little bit is you can change from one non-serif type style to another. I've seen people do that. Okay, a large number of candidates don't get through ATS screening, and the common reasons are the do not list that I just gave you, people doing that, or the more obvious one perhaps is in that you're just not that well qualified for the position. Remember that the companies that use this actually score, give you a score, like you just took a course in school and you got a 60 or a 70 or a 40 or an 80, and they use this as an initial screening device to screen out those that don't match as well. Okay, one of the things that you want to do when you finish your document is to make sure, since you're making changes and there are different versions, that the one that you send out is the only one that's going to be read. So follow this guideline on this first line here. My laptop does this automatically. Make sure you are in a mode where you can't go back and look at previous versions that may contain mistakes. And you're always going to submit your document in Word unless you're specifically instructed to do it as a PDF document. This is rare, but it happens. Most of the time it's going to be in Word. If it doesn't say anything, it's Word. So chronological, as I've been saying, is the most common and accepted format. And you follow your career progression. And here are some examples. Now, here's where I'm sharing with you my own resume from several years ago. And I want to talk through this. Put your name and your address. Some people don't like to put their street address. Sometimes people don't like to even put the town because they're concerned that they're divulging information about themselves that may promote the reader to do more detailed search on them. Quite frankly, I don't buy this, and I don't believe it, especially in today's world where many of the jobs you have to go to work and go to the office, or others you're working virtually. I think it's important to tell the person who's reading it where you live. In my case, I always thought my name was very, very unique. Gary Lande. I've never met another Gary Lande. It's not a John Smith. But guess what? On LinkedIn, there are other Gary Landes. So I want to make sure somebody reading this document knows it's me. And in order to make absolutely sure of that, of course, my telephone contact information and my LinkedIn address. Hopefully all of you have a LinkedIn profile. I'm working recently with some people who are relatively new at this that do not have a LinkedIn profile. And my view about a LinkedIn profile is that is your professional website. You need to have a LinkedIn profile, and because other people have similar names, you need to have the exact address that is your site that matches your name. So my career was supply chain management, and the first thing you do is you write a summary of the duties and responsibilities and the breadth and scope of your experience. So this is it. I won't read this, you can read it. And it's talking about my experience, breadth of my responsibilities, and the kinds of major programs and systems changes that I initiated to make improvements. These are the things that's kind of a summary of the value proposition. All right, and then something that I like to do, and is very, very helpful for the reader, is I like to list core competencies. These are the areas that demonstrate where you really have strength and what you're going to be offering to the employer. So these are mine, and you have yours, and it's nice to put them in this kind of a format. When you do this, as I mentioned before this, you might be tempted to put this, use a table. Please do not do that. Don't do a table. Just use your tab bar to set this up. And a couple of columns makes it easier to read rather than doing one long laundry list. So I happen to think this looks better. And this worked for me, and it will work. Another good thing that you can do is you can list your noteworthy achievements, especially if these things correlate with what is in the job description. These are from other people. This is not mine. Reducing operating expenses by $3 million by negotiating outdated chargeback dates. That's companies that don't pay their bills on time, and it's months and months and months go by, and a company is waiting for that money to come in. And this person focused on that and worked on that and brought in several $1 million. That's a real noteworthy achievement. Okay, same kind of idea, aged receivables. A recipient of an award for excellence, any type of an award that you receive or something that you were especially experienced in that makes you unique, this is a place to put it. Getting a key contributor award for developed financial planning and analysis for an IT division, okay? I'm putting this out here to get you thinking about some of the things that you've done that might be worthwhile fitting as a notable achievement. And here's another screen from my resume. And I would point out, first you mentioned the name of the company and then the time frame. And underneath it, I put pharmaceuticals. Now, pretty much everybody knows who Bristol Myers Squibb is and who J&J is. But I also worked for a company called Quality Technology Services. And if I just let that stand and I start talking about it, chances are the reader's not going to know what that is. So I put a one-liner there to talk about that company, what that company does. And then I go on with my job title, a broad sentence or two describing the duties and responsibilities, and then the bulleted accomplishments. Okay, this is a very, very good structure. If all of you use it, you'll be very, very successful. Here's an example of that. Kimball Incorporated. Who knows what Kimball is? All right, pharmaceuticals and life sciences. So if the reader wants to learn more about that company and what that company does, and they look for Kimball, they're not going to get another Kimball. It's going to be this one. And same idea with the outline of the structure. It's a very, very contemporary style. The last things on your resume will be your education, your professional certifications, and your professional development. And follow this outline in doing this. This is a correct way of describing your, when you graduate, what your major field was. MBA in organizational management and the school and the location. Same thing with the BA. Be liberal in describing these things so that it's very clear what these things are. Professional certifications, if you have one, who granted it? And you'll notice I don't put dates on these. It's not because I'm hiding my age. It's because it just isn't contemporary to do this anymore. And by the way, for anybody that's concerned about age, once you put this information in somebody's hands, there are numerous applications in Google that they will find you and they will find out all this information about you. Not just your age, but where you've lived, and who you're married to, the names of your kids, and so on and so forth. So I love the expression, you can run, but you can't hide. That's why this should be very open, honest, concise, and concrete as it can be. The more it is all of that, you enhance your chances of being called for discussion. If you belong to professional associations or educational affiliations, these things are definitely. Likewise, I mentioned volunteer experience before. And for those who are academically gifted, don't be bashful. Put it on there. When my son was in his senior year, he was on the dean's list for the entire year. And I have this ongoing argument with him. Bachelor of Arts degree, George Washington University. I said, Michael, why don't you put Dean's List senior year on? It's an impressive credential about your academic prowess and your academic skill. Well, he didn't want to do that. I bust on him. Like many others, I've lost as a dad. But I encourage you all, anything like this that distinguishes you, put it on your resume. And if you have published anything, any kind of publications, when, for an example, I'm working with people who are in the area of clinical research, it's like being in academia. They say in the university, if you're a professor, publish or perish. These are things that show your academic or scientific or engineering expertise. Anything that you publish, put it on your resume. This has weight, very, very positive. And obviously patents. So you finish your resume, and I'm going to make this recommendation. Consider it a draft and send it to friends and colleagues and even human resources professionals who are friends, not somebody obviously who's part of the firm that you're sending a resume to. But in my network, I had a number of HR people, and by showing them my resume, they shared their perspectives on it, and they influenced a lot of what I said and how I said it. So this is a good thing to do. Appearance, content, grammar, obviously these things are all important. And when somebody's reading your resume, one of the things that you're creating as an impression is your mastery of the English language. So in addition to using the editor function and checking for grammar and spelling and phraseology and all of that, it's important for human eyes to read this also. As I am reading the news today, what I'm seeing are words missing in sentences. I'm seeing the wrong word, all right? A word that's legitimate but doesn't fit in the context of the sentence. And this is happening because in industry, there's been a lot of downsizing of people called editors, the human eyes. And what they're relying on Microsoft to do all of this for them. Doesn't always work. Doesn't always work. So you want to circulate your resume to humans for review. And of course, readability and clarity, it goes without saying. Now I'll talk about customizing your resume. I was mentioning before about here's your resume and here's the job opportunity. Here's a little script for the way that you do this. I won't go through the details. You can read this as this is posted online. But what you're basically doing is you're using an application. It's called jobscan.co. Now you can do this manually if you want to. In the olden days, I used to print my resume and print the job opportunity, and I used to use a yellow highlighter to see how many places I matched the requirements. Now we have a system that helps you to do that, jobscan.co. And it is very simple. You paste it in one frame, you'll see it when you go to their website. You copy and paste your resume in one side and copy and paste the job description in the other. And the neat thing about this app is it's going to go through both, do the matching, and it comes down to the bottom. It gives you a list of those words and phrases that are in the job that are not in your resume. It gives you an opportunity to go back to your master resume and adjust it and put those things in there. It will also give you a raw score about your matching. I wouldn't pay that much attention to the raw score. I would pay more attention to what things can you change as words or phrases in your resume to match that job description better. And put that into the version that you are submitting before you submit it. This is just describing what I just said. Be careful that you do not use the same words over and over again. And by the way, that reminds me, when you do your accomplishments, your bulleted accomplishments, the way I usually write these is starting with an action verb. An action verb, what was the problem? What was the result? There's a little acronym that you can use to keep in your head to remember this. Problem, action, results, PAR, or CAR, challenge, results, okay? The way you write that, you don't have to start with an action verb. Just make sure you have those three elements in there. What was the problem? What did you do about it? And what was the result? You can find sample resumes on our website. You certainly will find them within Microsoft. There are literally thousands of them. And that's a site you go to for Microsoft, quinncareers.com. And I like variety in the way a resume is written. I don't want to see the word manage or supervise over and over and over again. So verbs for accomplishments you can find on this website. It will help you use ones that are synonyms, very, very similar, yet different. And this helps to show your mastery of the English language. So everybody's very quiet this morning here on Monday the 11th, Armistice Day. Are there any thoughts? Are there any questions? Are there any observations? Or shall I just sit down and be quiet? Bill, you want to come up to the mic, Bill? Yes.
Gary, this is Bill Pagula. I just wanted to make sure I understood. You're really saying you should have two versions of your resume, one for human eyes and one for the ATS systems. Is that correct?
Well, they are. There's no reason why they can't be one and the same. The resume should be ATS compliant, and it should be easily readable by a human. And that one version, following the outline that I've given everybody, makes a document that is readable by the human and is going to go through an applicant tracking system. Okay? Yeah, what might be different certainly is as you're customizing your resume to closer fit the opportunities for a job that you're applying for, then you'll have company 1 version, company 2, company 3, company 4. And obviously you save those and you keep those so you have a record of which document you sent to the company. But you know, when I was doing this, I said, oh my God, if I have 4 or 5 companies that I sent my resume to, which one am I going back to now to send to this particular company? I got a starting point. So my simple process-minded approach was have a master. And that's the one you use to go through the process of customizing. Okay? All right, thank you all very much.
Gary, thank you. And those were live applause. We didn't need to use any of the recorded applause. So another nice benefit of having an in-person meeting is you get the live applause. And you know, it's kind of funny, there are certainly people that really enjoy the live meetings, certainly presenters who enjoy the live meetings, because you get that interactive feedback or smiles on the faces and things like that. So certainly we encourage you to come on back. Is there a question, Alan, or are you starting to sing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll start to sing first and ask the question.
Okay, go ahead.
Kathy has a question, Gary.
Okay,
Is the summary that you showed
coming back.
appeared before the core competencies the same as the value proposition? So is the summary the same as the value proposition? Is the question.
Say that again, please, Alan.
The summary that you showed, is that the same as the value proposition?
Oh, core competencies versus value propositions.
Summary.
Yeah, it depends certainly on how you write it. If I have a core competency, for an example, in financial analysis,
Use the podium mic.
let me begin again. My lavalier was off. If my core competency is financial analysis, okay, that would not be a value proposition. The value proposition would be, what achievements do I have using my financial analytical expertise? So that's a very good question. That's the difference between those two. Okay, I'm a supply management expert, fine, but that's not an accomplishment. That's just a skill. That's a core competency. What did I do? What was my achievement?
Kathy was
That's
talking about
value proposition.
She was talking about the summary at the top of the resume.
Yes.
So she was asking to differentiate that, or is that the same as the value proposition?
Yeah, the summary, by the way, reminding me, when you submit your resume, where I go supply chain management, or in some cases people write summary, the thing to do is write the job title there for the position that you are applying for. Okay? That's important because, again, we have that person sitting at the desk like this, looking at 10 or 12 or 15 of these, and if it's a recruiter, they have multiple assignments. And right away, the thing they have to figure out if you don't do that is, which one of the assignments are you applying for? So that supply chain management would be fine if I were applying for a job where the job title was supply chain management. But if it isn't, please put the exact title of the job that you are applying for. Good point, good question.
Okay.
Okay.
Any others come in?
Anything else in the chat box, Alan?
No, that was it for the questions in the chat. Anybody else in the room? One last chance.
This is Charlie. When you're dealing with an intermediary, are we getting feedback? Yeah, we are. Let me put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in chat because we're having difficulty understanding.
Yeah.
You might want to juggle or do something while
I'm gonna
Charlie
sing.
types. Yeah.
David, I'm going to sing the Jeopardy music.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Da-da-da.
That's it.
Oh, you do have a nice singing voice. Do you have 3 tennis balls? I can juggle.
That coming, Alan?
Yeah, Charlie is busy typing away. So.
You don't see it until he presses the send button. So,
Okay. By the way, while we're waiting, everybody know who that statue is?
yes.
That is a statue of Rodin. And the title of it is The Thinker.
Okay.
I thought that was the logo for the Kohler fixture piece.
That's it.
Charlie's making a comment, not asking a question. He said, when dealing through an intermediary, make sure they didn't edit. So I guess what he's saying is, if you're sending it to a recruiter who's sending it on to a company,
Yeah.
make sure that they don't make an edit to what you send.
Right, right. That's the issue of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
When you work with a recruiter and they read your resume and they really like it, a lot of them will come back to you and say, hey, let's change this, let's adjust this, let's do this, and then you're a much stronger candidate. Terrific. That's terrific. And you want them to do that. You don't want them to change it. That's why when you send them the version that you send them, that's the one that you want them to submit unless they ask for your permission to change it.
Yeah.
And they can easily do that, and they should send you a copy of the changes that they make. So,
I'll ask a question.
Yes.
Why don't you take a seat?
and the answer is, I will.
Okay. Yeah, if there's another question, of course, we can address it.
Yep.
But always leave them wanting more, Gary. Don't answer the question. You know, I think this is such a valuable topic because a lot of people get a little confused about what the real intent of your resume is for, and how do you really make a good impression to the hiring manager of, within your resume by using your resume. So the techniques that Gary talks about here is you create this master resume, and nobody sees it but you because it's everything you've done in your career. But now you, on your fingertips or electronically on paper, you have a means to create that special targeted resume just for each individual position. So this is really a very valuable topic. I hope a lot of you really take that to heart. So create the master resume. It doesn't matter how many pages. It could be 2, 3, 4, 10 pages, everything in your work history. And then when you read that job description, you'll pull the pieces and the sections out, make a version for the position, and that's the value of the master resume. It's your source document, as Gary mentioned it early on in the presentation. So I think this is valuable, and I'm so glad that you continue to offer this. I know to your clients you do, but to us as well, so
Yeah.
big help.
David, would you click down one more screen, please, for me? Down arrow.
2 minutes.
Oh, there's Gary's contact information.
Okay,
Sure.
if anybody wants to get in touch with me, this is the last screen and this is how to do it.
There you go. Yeah, his resume, phone numbers, email address. So feel free to reach out to Gary. A little bit later today, Gary will be sending me the slides. We'll post it on our group's website. Now, by the way, almost all of our presentations from presenters are on the PSG of Mercer County website, psgofmercercounty.org. On the upper right of every screen is a link called Meeting Presentation Documents. And we called the link that because this is a meeting and those are the presentation documents. And so you click on that and you'll see links for each week that we have presentation documents. And most of the presenters are able to provide that information. So we're grateful for that. Every once in a while, there is proprietary information that the presenters can't share, but most of it, we're probably 85% to 90% are there. So you may want to look at a prior version of a presentation. Now, to be fair, it's a slide deck and other materials outside the context of the discussion. So also on the right side of our website, we have a YouTube link. It's the logo, and if you click on that, you go to our YouTube channel, and many of our presenters have allowed us, as we've done today, to record our presentations. So now you get the context of the slide deck as well. So we have, give or take, 105, 110 presentations on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and look at those there. And in my opinion, the YouTube channel, the slide decks that we provide, they're not meant to replace visiting or attending a meeting online because you need the interaction. You may have a question, and just watching a video, you may not get your specific question answered, so you're always welcome to come visit us on a Friday morning, either virtually or in person. So please keep that in mind. We are doing our best and will continue to keep our meetings going and active and hopefully facilitate everyone coming back to in person. So that's what we had for today. So again, thank you, Gary. What we have over the next few weeks, always like to let you know and whet your appetites for the coming weeks. Next week, Joey Himmelfarb will be here. Joey is an author and he's also a coach. He will be here talking about selling yourself. And so it's really a way of promoting yourself, getting your information, your brand, things about you out there for people to understand, and you'll clearly get that out there. And then people will be interested, hopefully, in speaking with you and learning more. So it'll be next Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll be both here virtually. Joey Himmelfarb will be here in person. He'll be live, not on Memorex, so that'll be fine. Then the following week, that's going to be Black Friday. We're taking that Friday off. You do have to do your discount shopping, and so we don't want to be in the way of that. So because of the Thanksgiving week, we are taking that Friday, the 25th off. And by the way, Cyber Monday is the Monday after Black Friday. And over the last few years, sales have been bigger on Cyber Monday than they have been on Black Friday. Black Friday typically is walking into stores and shopping, which is very nice, kicks off the holiday season. So why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because having an online presence, being online, being found online is more and more important. People are using online a lot more. Hiring companies are as well, not just for shopping, but to learn more about us. So a presentation today about getting your brand and representing yourself properly, putting it on LinkedIn, being active on social media as well. Do be open to doing that. And don't worry about giving away too much secret information. Gary was alluding to this earlier. You are not giving away your secret information. When you put your resume online, you're not putting your social security number, your credit card expiration dates and things like that. You're putting the town that you live in, your interests, your professional background. That other information is there anyway. You're not participating with that. You're giving the good, important information that's relevant for you professionally. So don't be afraid to be on and be found online. So keep in mind that all becomes very important. Other meetings going on in the coming weeks. Tomorrow morning, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey is meeting virtually. If they're meeting virtually, how can you have breakfast? What you do is you sit in front of your computer with your breakfast. That's how you do it. So the Breakfast Club of New Jersey, thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com, 8 o'clock in the morning. And Bill LaChance will be presenting money-saving strategies during a career transition. He's not going to be talking about financial planning and wealth management. That's not the goal. He's really going to talk about, from a perspective of now, if you are in a job search, things that you could take advantage of, things you need to be aware of, help you from your budgeting perspective. So all good topics. Bill has presented here before. He's presented at the Breakfast Club of New Jersey tomorrow morning. And also some other organizations, cousins of ours, PSG of Central New Jersey meets virtually each Monday at 10:30, psgcnj.biz, CNJ for Central New Jersey, psgcnj.biz. And Wednesdays at 9:30, PSG of Morris County will be meeting virtually as well, psgmc.org. So go check out those groups. They also have presenters and topics and discussions, much like ours. You may get some good information from other groups as well. So that is our program for today. So glad that you were able to join us. So glad for those of you virtually who are able to join us as well. And for virtual people, we're going to keep the session open if you want to network among yourselves. For those of us in person here, we're going to be networking among ourselves here. The in-person people not easily able to network with the virtual people, so have those two groups. But until we get to see you again, hopefully next week, we will simply say, bye, everybody.